Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
The time is 5:06. It's Tuesday morning, the 19th day of November. Thanks so much for tuning in here to our extravaganza. Great to talk with you. I've been calling it an extravaganza a lot lately. Have you noticed that? Am I overselling, overpromising?
No.
Well, no, we don't often have like confetti cannons at the end. And I think extravaganza,
Let's go with it.
Grand finale of Be Our Guest in Beauty and the Beast. 6:35, we're going to talk to Sylvie Rivera. She, of course, of Real Housewives of WMAL and literally a beauty pageant expert. Because apparently Miss Universe, this is weird. I mean, this is a huge story. Miss Universe is an actual woman.
Is an actual woman.
An actual woman who, by the way, looks like a woman. Like a healthy woman.
I think people are also shocked she's white. Okay,
Well,
and blonde. We haven't had sort of the traditional Barbie look in a while.
See, here's the thing. When I see a woman at a beauty pageant, color of the skin is the last thing I'm looking at. There's a whole lot else that sort of meets my eye first.
But I'll just say it's just like it's a little bit counterculture lately. Yeah.
So we'll speak with Sylvia about that and many other things. Also at 7:05, Hans von Spakovsky. Anytime we have an election, we get Hans here like every other day because there's a lot going on in Pennsylvania. And at 8:05, Mark Morgan, former acting commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, talk about some of the revelations we're learning about the accused murderer of Laken Riley undergoing that murder trial. I am Larry O'Connor, and that there is Julie Gunlock, also, by the way, a real white woman. But not, as far as I know, Miss Universe, now or past. Maybe future.
Mrs.
Well, it Mrs. Universe.
Granny,
exactly.
Granny Universe, whatever.
So they're going after Trump's picks for the cabinet again. And it's the same playbook. So former Congressman of Wisconsin, Sean Duffy, is selected to be the designee for Secretary of Treasury.
Yep.
And what's the headline from Politico? Former reality star, Sean Duffy. And I had to think for a second because, seriously, I think of him as a current host with his wife on Fox News. I think of him as a four-term congressman in Wisconsin.
Dad of 27.
And he has many children. Let's be clear on that. He has 8 children only within the confines of his marriage. No, because there are some Democrats who will have 27 kids, spread about various.
I thought it was 9. Is it 8?
Is it 9? It could be 9.
I thought it's 9.
After a certain point, you just stop counting.
Who cares? Yeah. Exactly.
A lot of kids. And then I said, what do you mean reality star? And then I remembered, like 35 years ago, like 1992, I think.
Yeah.
He was on the inaugural season of MTV's Real World.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And
no. Was he the inaugural season?
Wasn't it the inaugural season?
No,
with
no.
Puck and with...
No, he was... No, Rachel was on the inaugural season with Puck.
The wife. Look at
yes,
here we go.
Look at me.
We're going down the rabbit hole.
Now, Duffy, I believe, was on that travel show.
Sean.
What is it?
Michael says it was Boston.
Oh, Real World Boston. And
Okay.
the both of them were on this like Real World Challenge show.
I defer. Please flesh all the reality part of this out.
Was this supposed to be a small part of the segment?
Well, no. I mean,
Fine.
It is. We didn't have to get into the granular details of MTV's Real World, which, by the way, was a groundbreaking reality TV show. If you think about it.
Can you move on? I mean, haven't we spent a little bit too much time?
I think we're going to talk about MTV's. Could we get Puck on the show tomorrow, please? It's been a long time since. What happened to Puck? Is he still alive? Is he still calling himself Puck?
I stopped watching that show after he stuck his
stopped watching that show after the first episode.
Eating peanut butter without a spoon or a knife. He just used his hand, and I was like, I'm done.
Who, Sean Duffy? Because that'll come up in confirmation.
Nope. It should. That is disqualifying.
Isn't it true?
It's disgusting.
You ate peanut butter
with your hand.
I remember, this is when I realized that I had outgrown my generation. Because what was it, 1993, I want to say?
Something like that, yeah.
MTV's Real World. And this is supposed to, I mean, this was like all about, this is Gen X. This is geared toward us. It's a big day. And it was also sort of when MTV jumped the shark when they decided that music wasn't really a big part of what MTV was going to do.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, we'll get to Sean Duffy in the Department of Transportation in a minute, okay? This is way more important. So I remember, as you know, I didn't go to college. So I joined the workforce. I'm out there working. I've already been out there for several years.
You're adulting.
I'm adulting. Exactly. I've got a job. I've got a paycheck.
As the kids
They're taking taxes out of my check.
Yeah.
I'm paying for health insurance.
Who's FICA?
All this stuff. And then it's like, oh, MTV's got this new show, and it's buzzing, and they're really hyped about it. And so I tune in for the first episode. I watch it, and halfway through it, it's like, I hate all these people.
Well, and also it was
I don't want to spend time with them.
Also, as a person who's launched out there working taxes, they call it the real world. You're like, excuse me, I wasn't given a mansion, and
in New York.
New York.
Right. I was living in New York at the
yes.
time. I was living in Brooklyn in a one-bedroom, barely one-bedroom. It was like a studio with a little partition.
Yeah,
that
you
fit
watch
a
those
bed.
documentaries about Hong Kong, people living in like 3x3 box.
And
that
I was
was
like,
you.
living the life. And exactly. There's nothing real about this real world.
Yeah.
And so I decided I don't want to spend any time. So literally I watched the first episode and that was it. I tracked it.
Yeah,
I
watched probably a season and then I was like, I felt like you. I was struggling interning in Washington.
Yeah.
This was not real at all.
Do you think this is how Bernie Sanders is going to question Sean Duffy when he comes up for confirmation? Tell me something, please, Sean. Did you see any of those women naked?
Did you really feel like it was the real?
That's what we really want to know. Everyone watching that show just thought you were all doing it. Were you? So Sean Duffy doing that MTV thing, apparently that is now his epitaph.
Well, we've certainly just
no
made
matter
it so.
where he goes. This is how Politico described him. Now, again, 8-year congressman, 8-year assistant district attorney, accomplished life. And as someone smartly pointed out, you figure out how to get 9 kids to and from school and church and soccer practice.
That alone,
you're an expert at transportation. Yes. We're all going to get minivans.
And he drives a minivan. So,
I'm sure he does.
Yes.
I'm sure he does. So now, recently, he's been hosting a Fox Business Channel show. And I'll be honest. I mean, listen, we didn't dwell on it too much with Pete Hegseth, but now that there seems to be a pattern developing, can I just say, and there's nothing new here. I've been saying this for quite some time. I'm not a huge fan of the revolving door between the media and politics.
Yeah, sure.
I don't like it. I didn't like it when George Stephanopoulos and Jen Psaki were able to seamlessly move from the White House to your, television set, and I don't like it when people can move seamlessly from your television set to the White House. It's like, why can't we have a fine line or a thick line here? It's like, pick your lane. Pick your career. You're either going to be in the media or you're going to be in the government. But when you keep, transferring back, I'm not a huge fan of it. That said, Trump should be able to get whoever he wants in his cabinet. There's nothing wrong with Sean Duffy. He's a good guy.
He served in Congress and, was a U.S. district attorney. Sean Duffy has been in government for many years, as opposed to some small town mayor who liked trains.
Right. Which is literally Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah. So again, they're going to pretend that he has nothing, that all he is a broadcaster and a reality TV star. It's just not true.
8 children, by the way, but they were expecting their 9th. As of August, this is an odd little descriptor. As of August 2019, Duffy and his wife had 8 children and were expecting their 9th that October.
So they have 9. That was
okay.
Old. Yeah.
So this is an old bio here. Thank you very much. All right, so there you go. That's his designee for transportation. But you make a good point of raising Pete Buttigieg. I mean, the good news is no matter who he brings up, every single one of us in defending them personally, globally, in a micro level, macro level, on your Facebook page or on the radio, anytime someone says, well, is that person qualified? All you got to do is look at who Biden has appointed. Right. At every single level. Give me any department, and whoever Trump brings up is going to be better, if not just as qualified. Yeah. 5:15.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
He's also a log roller. You know that?
I did.
Apparently he started
a lumberjack.
Started log rolling at an early age when he lived in Wisconsin, and he competes in these things where he can like scale up a giant telephone pole like Spider-Man. Have you seen these videos?
I have.
Like, something you want to say?
No.
You seem a little... He's not a bad looker either. Generally speaking, Trump has picked some pretty attractive people.
Yes, he has.
For his cabinet. Still having a thing with Gates' eyebrows, but beyond that, I can look beyond it. But generally speaking, pretty good-looking cabinet.
I think Trump likes attractive people.
All right. Well, don't we all like attractive people?
Sure.
For God's sake, coming up at 6:35, we're going to talk to Sylvia Rivera, who is an attractive woman in her own right, about the Miss Universe pageant. There's a reason why beauty pageants are successful.
That's right.
All right. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is still president of the United States. And as he leaves office as a lame duck, he apparently is bound and determined to start World War III. A couple of items in the news. First of all, it didn't get a whole lot of attention, but Biden authorized Ukraine to utilize certain conventional missiles that we have been supplying that nation during their war against Russia. He authorized them to use those missiles in a more robust way into longer range targets into Russia. All right. So, and again, didn't get a whole lot of fair. It's funny, the things that don't get a Rose Garden signing ceremony or even a press release for that matter. But this was announced
yesterday,
just early in the morning yesterday.
Yeah.
The U.S. will allow Ukraine to use American-supplied longer-range weapons to conduct strikes deeper into Russian territory, a long-sought request by Kyiv. Meanwhile, now, less than 24 hours later, Vladimir Putin has announced a decision of his own. He has now approved an updated language for that country's nuclear doctrine. This is language that is always sort of worked through and negotiated at these arms treaties and stuff like that. The new language in Russia's nuclear doctrine says that the country can consider using nuclear weapons if it is subject to a conventional missile assault supported by a nation with nuclear weapons. Gee, that sounds oddly specific.
Yeah.
In other words, Biden allows Zelensky and Ukraine to use long-range missiles deep into Russian territory that we are supplying them. And Vladimir Putin has just announced, you do that, and we're going to keep nuclear weapons on the table as an option. This, 2 months before Biden leaves office. What the hell is going on?
Well, they want to make it tough for Trump. That is
tough for Trump. How about the existential lives of people who are going to be slaughtered over there in that region?
Yes, but Larry, they've never really cared about our lives. They care about Trump and revenge and petty differences. This is how the Bidens are. It's how Hillary Clinton is, and this is how they're going to sort of.
They want to handcuff him.
They want to make him distracted. They want to create essentially this sort of thing that takes all of his attention. Yeah. And hopefully, Trump's already been in touch with Putin, they say, and Zelensky. And hopefully there can be some backdoor, sort of diplomacy that relieves the tension here.
Well, and then they'll go after him for violating the law because you're not allowed to conduct your own foreign policy during, until
Vindeman's already on it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Biden, of course, is down visiting the Amazonian rainforest.
Have they found him?
Well, he did go wandering into the jungle at some point. I think he had to pick up a package and bring it back for Hunter. Dropped there for him. No questions asked. I'm sure that it's just artifacts of some kind.
Amazon
sure.
Order.
But people were shouting. Yes, thank you. Amazon Prime. People were shouting questions at him. Hey, Mr. President, how about that whole missile authorization you just gave Ukraine? Do you have anything to say about that? Just completely ignored the questions. Went there and attended.
I don't know that he knows it happened.
Well, that's another question. I mean, who's really doing this?
Right.
You're right. I saw that headline, Biden authorizes use of conventional weapons, long-range conventional. I was like, no, he didn't. I bet he has no idea this happened.
And honestly, Biden, sort of smiling and welcoming Trump into the White House sort of proves that. This guy has no idea what's going on.
Well, it's definitely an escalation over there. Russia has now warned the U.S. by letting Ukraine do that basically they see us as a target. They see us as a participant in this war. And while CBS News write-up, while there was no immediate reaction directly from the man who launched the nearly 3-year war on his neighboring nation, lawmakers aligned with President Vladimir Putin in Russia said Monday that the move was unacceptable and warned it could lead to a third world war. Gee, that's probably noteworthy, isn't it? And again, this president and his successor and his party and his cabinet and his policies have just been overwhelmingly rejected by the American people in one of the most stunning political victories and elections in American history. And now he's saber-rattling and escalating a war that we should have, that was a big part of this election. Donald Trump said they're blowing it in Ukraine. Whatever would have happened if I were president, and when I'm president, I'm going to end it. And now they're escalating it while he's leaving office.
And you just said, Russia, thinks we're part of it, thinks that aren't we? We are. We have been. We've been running this proxy war, and obviously the ire is going to be turned on us at some point.
It's 5:23.
Making sense of your world.
Thank you guys for all that you do.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
I listen to you every day.
Making now
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36 as we continue our march through the news cycle we like to call O'Connor and Company. Your morning, I'll say it, extravaganza. It's the only word I can come up with. It's just
America's news program. That's what
Sure.
we used to say.
Coming up at 6:35, Sylvia Rivera, Real Housewives of WMAL, and also our designated beauty pageant correspondent, because we have huge news. A woman won Miss Universe. That's right.
A pretty woman.
A woman. I mean, it's great that she's pretty, but I'm at this point settling for a woman without male body parts. 7:05, Hans von Spakovsky will join us. 8:05, Mark Morgan about the Lake and Riley trial. And also, how easy will it be to actually deport the people that should be deported in this country? That's Julie Gunlock over there.
Good morning.
I'm Larry O'Connor. Good morning to you. You're chipper today, and I appreciate that. I like it when you're chipper. No, because usually you're in such a lousy mood, and it takes forever for us to put you into it.
So mean. I am not in a lousy mood ever.
Hans von Spakovsky is going to be joining us at 7:05. He's an election law expert, and he's going to give us an update, as it were, on what's going on in Pennsylvania. Now, let's get you up to speed here. November 15th, Bucks County commissioners voted specifically to count illegal ballots that are not votes. They're ballots that have been turned in, but it's really important where it says count every ballot, count every ballot. No, some ballots should not be counted.
Right.
Only valid ballots that are legal votes should be counted. And only within certain parameters and certain guidelines, by the way. And in Pennsylvania specifically, the law says that a mail-in or dropped-off or absentee ballot has to be signed. It has to be signed. There's a lot of reasons why we do that. A lot of reasons why we compel third world nations who are just experimenting with democracy that they should do the same thing. Remember the little purple fingertips that they used to do in Afghanistan and in Iraq? I'm ready to go back to that here, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So the Bucks County commissioners, loaded with Democrats, are evaluating whether they should count these invalid, illegal, improperly marked ballots that have no signatures. Why do they even have to vote on this? The law is the law. You're like, I don't know, the law says we're not supposed to count these, but let's put it up to a vote, shall we? So they're having the vote, and a Republican on the commission moves to throw out all of these illegal, improper, invalid ballots.
We reject all three categories of these ballots.
Your motion is to reject or dismiss the challenges in this category in front of you?
Correct, yep.
Not going to second that, mostly because I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it.
All right, that is Diane Marseglia. She is a Democrat, surprise, surprise, on the Bucks County Board of Commissioners. She, despite her sort of Philly-sounding accent there, sounds like she's one of your neighbors, frankly, with the attitude. Mm-hmm. You can hear the pink hat affixed permanently onto her head.
Indifference, yeah.
So then the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court has smacked down that body, specifically blocking them from counting those illegal ballots. And Republicans have now filed 12 additional lawsuits to end this recount. Now, the recount in question specifically focuses on the Senate race of Bob Casey, who, you know, he's one of those senators in this town that people always say, well, he's a good man.
He's a good man.
And his father was a good man. Yes. And you'll remember Casey's his father at least, his big claim to fame was he was the last remaining pro-life Democrat. Yep. But I remember, I think it was the 96 convention of Bill Clinton where they would not allow him to speak.
Right.
because he was the one guy who said maybe babies shouldn't be legally killed in the womb.
Right.
They wouldn't let him speak. But then he handed off his seat to his son because Democrats. And now Bob Casey Jr., who's a really good man.
Good man, yeah.
He is now the senator from that
state. An
state.
election denier, I think that's what they call
And he is allowing his lawyers, and he personally is leading the charge to continue these recounts and recounts and recounts until they're in the lead, and then they'll say, it's over now.
And Mark Elias, who's the lawyer who was involved in the 2020 election and is constantly using lawfare to essentially rig these elections, he's involved in this as well.
So Hans von Spakovsky, election law expert, is going to join us coming up at 7:05 to sort a lot of this out. I just want to point out this is happening in the Senate race only because the margin of victory was that much bigger for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania this year. And he won not just Pennsylvania, but Wisconsin and Michigan as well. Let me tell you something. If it were all down to just this one state, if Kamala had won Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania was a determinant, they'd be all over this thing.
It wouldn't be over. Yeah.
This would not just be about Bob Casey, I assure you. But it couldn't. This is why people use the term too big to rig, or as Hugh Hewitt wrote 25 years ago, the name of his book was If It's Not Close, They Can't Cheat. This was coming out of the 2000 election because their playbook was clear. If it's close, they're going to do whatever they can through any machination and any legal or maybe even not so legal means to try to get that victory. I just want to take a walk down memory lane for a quick moment, if I could. 4 years ago, as we were dealing with the aftermath of the 2020 election, there were three major hotspots. There was Georgia, and there was more than three, but the ones that I was focusing on most were Fulton County, Georgia, Cook County, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, where Philadelphia is, and also Bucks County and some of these other outlying counties. I was so eagerly excited and looking forward to the afternoon of January 6th because Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz were both going to make the argument about how Pennsylvania had gone off the rails, defied their state legislature, an unelected Secretary of State defying the will of the people through their elected representatives in the legislature and changed the machinations of their ballot counting. They were going to make that case. I had been tracking it. I knew attorneys who were working up in Pennsylvania who had the evidence to make that case. No, not in a court of law. In the Senate, in Congress, where they were evaluating by two brilliant, Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, they were ready to take up that case. And then the events of 12 noon on January 6th occurred, and that debate never happened. The discussion never happened. The argument was never made. You were never allowed to speak of it again. And here we are 4 years later, and look at what's happening right out in the open in Pennsylvania. And, well, I'll just say it. I think they cheated 4 years ago, and they're cheating right now.
That's right.
And you'll never convince me otherwise. It's 5:44. So we've been talking about the stunning developments out of the Miss Universe pageant that really were noteworthy. That's why we're going to speak with Sylvia Rivera coming up at 6:35 because she watches these pageants, so we don't have to.
Yes.
But here was the big moment at the pageant this week.
The new Miss Universe is
Denmark. And some items of note here about the Miss Denmark here. First of all, Victoria Kjær Theilvig. Well, I don't know. How do you pronounce that? It's like K and J are not supposed to be put together
Just go
like
with
that.
Victoria. Just start
Victoria Theilvig, 21 years old, is now your 73rd Miss Universe. The pageant was held in Mexico City. She bid out 120 other contestants. Let's just be clear. She is a woman by every possible definition. I'm told. I mean, I haven't.
She's Barbie.
She
100%.
is. I mean, it's like, boy, they've really veered over into the, their home base here compared to, they've been off in the wilderness for a while. They've been wandering like Joe Biden in the Amazon jungle there.
Yes.
It's owned by a transgender dude out of Thailand, right? So they've been pushing to have transgender contestants.
Yeah.
And last year's winner was not transgender, but right, or was it? No, Miss Maryland.
Miss Maryland is
a dude.
transgender. Yes.
Married to a Marine.
Yes, and
who
she
probably
competed
gets a lot of jokes
Miss America.
at work.
It was like Miss
That
USA.
was Miss USA.
Yes.
Well, which is affiliated with Miss Universe.
Yes, exactly.
But they've been going through these, sort of odd woke
Wokeification of
adjustments to the pageant.
where you sort of expect them to have hairy armpits in the bathing suit
and the pink hats and everything.
like sort of fat acceptance, like the curvy woman in the bathing suit, like
fat acceptance. Is that the new term for body shaming or for non-body shaming?
No, for not.
Fat acceptance.
That's a thing. It's a real thing.
So you or Heather Hunter, or we have, you can imagine the group chats that we have amongst the O'Connor and Company family here. And I see this link. It's like, oh, look at the new Miss Universe. And I clicked on it fully expecting it
to be a man.
to look like Kamala Harris's stepdaughter, right?
Well, that's what I mean. The hairy legs or something like that.
And then I click on it, and here's Miss Denmark, and holy Moses.
I mean, this is
Talk about
this
all
is Christy
woman.
Brinkley. This is 1980s. This is
Total throwback.
This is Sports Illustrated 1983, right?
And
cover
dresses like a woman, shows off all of her assets.
Yes.
Let's say,
yes.
Literally, she looks like she is a Barbie.
Also, she's not enhanced. Like, she doesn't look like she has had massive plastic surgery.
Well, maybe that hair color has been enhanced.
Okay, well,
that's not nothing.
Everybody, I'm
nothing natural
actually
about
going
that.
to the salon today.
Are
by
you?
the way,
Yeah, but you're not going to go with that shade of blonde.
Possibly.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of a hot trend now.
Things are happening.
No, but I mean, she looks sort of naturally beautiful, is what I'm saying. Which is very 1980s.
And everybody, by the way, is connecting this to Trump's victory and
Exactly,
saying,
of course.
back.
Yes, we're back.
They're saying if Kamala had won, they would have awarded this to a 40-year-old transgender who looks like Lena Dunham and is currently appearing in Hamilton on Broadway.
Shape. Exactly.
But no, Trump wins, and they give it to someone who looks like at one point could have been Mrs. Trump.
Like a beauty pageant, like a beauty queen.
It's really impressive. Oh, look there's the bathing suit.
Yeah, looking good.
I'm going to need a minute. Victoria Thelvig proclaimed her win as a win for Denmark and for Europe. I worked so hard to reestablish a name for me, making history standing here today as the
let's
first...
not go overboard, for God's sake.
The first ever woman from Denmark to win the Miss Universe title is history, and I know that both Denmark and Europe in general is going to be so proud. Wow, Western civilization striking back through Miss Denmark. I mean, she's a beautiful woman.
She is.
And she's Scandinavian.
Yeah, I mean...
And...
You really do need a moment.
Well, I mean, everyone.
You should see the look on Larry's face right now. He's literally leaning into his computer screen. He is about an inch away from his computer screen, really examining that.
I'm looking forward to speaking with Sylvia Rivera, Real Housewives of WMAL. We'll talk about the larger, broader cultural significance of this moment and whether this was even a good show. Because
history-making moment for Denmark.